In 1882, the first Jews from Europe arrived in historical Palestine as refugees from the ongoing persecution at the hands of their Christian masters. Palestine back then had about 500,000 people living there under Ottoman rule since the 16th century. They had their own Arabic dialect, their own culture, and a thriving community that was modernizing at the turn of the century. There was a saying that good books were written in Cairo, printed in Beirut, and read in Jaffa. It was an integral part of the Arab world. Most of the population were Muslims, but there was a sizable minority of Arab Christians and Arab Jews that lived harmoniously with the Muslims. All of that changed by the arrival of the first Zionists in 1882. Zionism is a very ancient concept, more so than many believe. It is part of Jewish faith to return to Zion and take back Palestine from the infidels. To not try to take back Palestine or seeking another home is considered akin to idol worship, according to Rabbi Nachmanides and other Jewish authorities. In fact, this was the argument used by early Zionist figures like Chaim Weizmann, who became the first president of Israel when it was suggested instead to take over Uganda. It almost caused a split in the movement. Not to forget the most important part of Zionism, Christian Zionism. Christian Zionists, fundamentalists, make up the largest, strongest supporters of Israel today, with nearly 100 million Americans supporting Israel through donations and political support. Protestant evangelicals have been the backbone of Zionism since its modern conception, driven through harsh fanaticism that Jews must return to Zion for the second coming of Jesus and ushering in the end times. It isn't exactly for the love of Jews that Christian Zionists help them. Many of the Protestant evangelicals, in fact, are and were as anti-Semitic as your average swastika bearer. These people see this as a good opportunity to dump the Jews out of Europe. Hence, since the days of the British Empire, they have supported the migration of Jews to Palestine and also given them political backing. The turning point that changed history forever was the fall of Ottoman Empire. After the First World War, Palestine came under British rule. The first Jewish immigration to Palestine took advantage of the new land laws that were passed by the British in the 1920s. Under Ottoman rule, land couldn't be bought privately, but was leased by the government. Villages and villagers came with the land naturally, which is why the first Jewish immigrants in the 1880s mostly bought cultivated land where no one lived. With the introduction of new land laws, the Jews sought also the right to evict their tenants from the British. Thus began the first phase of ethnic cleansing in Palestine. Zionists knew to get Palestine they would need the help of great powers of the time, be it the Ottoman Empire or the British Empire. Theodor Herzl thought to buy Palestine from the Ottomans with the money he didn't have, but the Ottomans refused. The Zionists then formed lobbies in Great Britain, lobbying at the corridors of power for a Jewish home in Palestine, a European outpost in the Middle East. Their lobbying brought forth the Balfour Declaration, which promised the Jews a home in Palestine. Judging from the diaries of the founders of modern Zionism, they knew that Palestine wasn't empty, and they were unconcerned about what would happen to the native population. Theodor Herzl actually believed that quote-unquote penniless natives could just be spirited away to the neighboring countries. The year of 1948 is filled with mass ethnic cleansings. The early Zionist leaders like David Ben-Gurion and Jabotinsky, unlike Herzl, were more concerned with establishing facts on the ground rather than trying to win international support for the Zionist project. They formed organized militias like Haganah, Irgun, and the Stun Gang that used to attack and terrorize villages, killing hundreds of men, women, and children. Many infamous massacres occurred during the time frame, such as the Tantura massacre. The militias employed tactics like the Plan Dalet, where they would surround a village from three sides, leaving the fourth side open for the population to leave through. The village was then reduced to rubble, and explosives would be planted in the rubble to prevent anyone from coming back. This tactic is also somewhat used today in the genocide of Gaza, where they push the Palestinians from north to the south of the Gaza Strip to push them into the Sinai Desert through Rafah, while the whole Gaza Strip is being razed to the ground. Another infamous incident was when the Stun Gang stormed Deir Yassin and killed residents house by house, not even sparing women and children. Over 100 villagers were murdered in cold blood. This is how the ethnic cleansing and mass expulsions went on throughout the year 1948, an event now remembered as the Nakba. The Palestinians then became refugees who got expelled to the neighboring countries like Lebanon, Yemen, Syria, or got pushed into what is today is known as the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. The point of the Nakba, like today's genocide, wasn't just to expel the native population, but to prevent any chance of a Palestinian statehood in the future. In the wake of the Six-Day War in 1967, Israel for a brief moment had conquered the whole of Palestine, the Golan Heights and the Sinai Peninsula. Israel decided that old strategies of ethnically cleansing the native population wouldn't work this time, so it chose another option. It allowed the natives to live in the occupied West Bank and the Gaza Strip. Then they chose not to give the native population the Israeli citizenship. It meant that the civilians now were under the mercy of the army. They could be harassed by them. Schools, businesses, and workplaces could be closed down. Every basic human and civil right that they could have possessed was stripped from them. By 1987, the Palestinians had had enough of the abuse, unexplained long detainments, and expulsions. After an Israeli truck collided with a civilian car in Gaza, the first Intifada began, which was the non-violent protest against Israeli brutality. The then Israeli Minister of Defense Yitzhak Rabin, who received a Nobel Prize for Peace ironically, ordered the soldiers to break the bones of the protesters. The Intifada lasted till 1993, and by then 1,000 Palestinians were murdered, homes were demolished, schools were closed, mass curfews and expulsions became the norm. In the year 2000, after years of abuse and failure of many treaties like the Oslo Accords, along with provocations of Zionists like Ariel Sharon's controversial visit to Harm al-Sharif, the Second Intifada began. The Second Intifada was a lot more militant than the First Intifada. Israelis reacted to it with the now infamous Operation Defensive Shield, which left behind hundreds of thousands dead and many cities in ruin. In the years following Operation Defensive Shield, Israel intensified building settlements in the West Bank and passed new Jim Crow-like laws to further control the native population. In 2003, Israel passed the infamous Nationality and Entry into Israel law, which barred the Palestinians from gaining any nationality through marriage with an Israeli citizen. This also meant that the Palestinians could be barred from meeting their spouses. In 2011, the government of Israel passed the Nakba law. Any official institution that would commemorate the Nakba would immediately lose its funding and protected status. Other laws would prevent Palestinians from entering Jewish neighborhoods and would prohibit making transactions on land with Palestinians. If you enjoyed this episode, consider liking and subscribing to my channel. The period of 2000s and 2010s will be covered in the next video on Israel-Palestine conflict, and be sure to become a Patreon member to support my work and fight for the rights of Palestinians.